is what I appreciate about the energy of like the Justice Fund, because like not only do you all like run your programs and essentially putting your money where your mouth is, like you're also advocating and bringing this like knowledge to the forefronts that people just don't even know about. So big up to y'all for that. As we're going to be wrapping up shortly, I kind of want to move to the aspect of like healing through like creative expression. Like I'm curious to know like your perspective, like how have you seen that, like creative expression, however that looks, and in the context of healing, like what are some things that you all have seen?
What's funny, like for me, I've always like, I've never really all the way understood it, like we all understand it on some level. Like, of course it's impactful to express yourself creatively, especially in circumstances of trauma or just, getting through life on a day-to-day basis can be helpful. But I've had these experiences with people coming to me, telling me that I've changed their life or done this or that. And that's sort of what I mean by the part I've always had a hard time. Like, yeah, okay, like, sure, whatever. Okay, cool. Like, I made some records. Like, yeah, it's had some crazy impact on you. But I mean, like, the reality is after, 15 years of having those conversations with people is that music can do that. And it can have that experience. And it is for a lot of us that escape and that growth and that eye-opening and whatever the case is. And so creating it also obviously has a similar effect. And so I've subscribed more to that narrative as I've had the personal experiences of that specifically throughout my career and how people have been impacted. And so I've understood that more and more as I've gotten older. And I think just expressing yourself, creative writing is valuable, right? Making music is valuable, singing is valuable, dancing is valuable. All of these things can be the best therapy known to mankind. So it's like, I hold immense value in those things. And as I said, I've seen it firsthand. So even if I would be skeptical in the very beginning to like be like, I don't know if I all the way believe you. It's like I'm approaching from a different place now where I see day to day what it does for people. And obviously for myself, I take a much greater perspective, which is, and I just choose music as my tool to attack that greater perspective. But the greater perspective is a lot of kids growing up in this city and not finding value or worth in themselves or their futures. And for me, it's like, maybe you're going to get into a studio or in front of that computer or in front of that drum machine and be like, oh man, I can do this. In fact, this sounds cool. Oh my God, hold on. I'm inspired. Wait, hold on. I have something I need to do tomorrow. Hold on. I've got a priority. I've got somewhere I need to spend my energy that isn't bullshit. Like I'm suddenly motivated, and that's my marker of success. That's what I boil it down to. It's that simple for me. My tool to sort of like show that value and worth just so happens to be the creation of music, whether it's technical aspect, the creative aspect, writing, performing, or it's, as I said, technical, recording and creating. Because for me, it was recording. That was my joy. Like, I just loved putting the pieces together for other people around me. I didn't necessarily want to be on the mic myself, right? So that was my sort of expression. And so that's really my marker of success anyways, is kind of my point, right? I just want to show people that look how valuable this can be and how fun it is and how much of a future there is in so many different ways and so on and so forth. So that's really what I'm doing with music. But I also, obviously, yes, it's an incredible healing experience on many levels, let alone getting into like, the secrets of like special frequencies that make you feel better or whatever the case is, of that type of medicine, if you will, when it comes to music.
No, man, that's extremely powerful, and it's really like validating coming from someone like yourself, who's seen the ultimate heights of like success, and sometimes us, people who are like trying to explain to others, they're like, yeah, well, that's cute, want to get in the studio and whatnot, but no, like there really is like a lot of like healing properties. And then another thing I want to address is like oftentimes when it comes to like recording music, young people feel like they got to be in this like elaborate studio to like record stuff and whatnot. But like I heard that like Champagne Poetry was like recorded on an iPhone. Like it was, is that true?
Yeah, so like, okay, so I'm always recording stuff on an iPhone just because it's like easier these days, and the iPhone sounds great. So I'm like, yeah, if I have to like record like an instrument, I might just like use an iPhone, for instance. But I think like, I don't know, I always tell my Travis Scott story, which is, I remember when I met him at Wireless Fest in London, and we'd never met before, and he comes up to me, he's like, "Oh man, 40, you don't understand, you changed my life." I'm like, "Oh, what are you talking about?" And he's like, "Oh, you did this blog post where you basically said all you need is like a laptop and this program and this mic and a couple plugins." And I showed my mom, and I was like, "Yo, mom, listen, all I need is this mic and these plugins." And he convinced his mom to get it for him. And he's like, "Look what happened. Look, I'm here. I'm here." And I was just like, "Whoa, that's fucking crazy," you know? I'm always joking with my manager about like, did it actually happen? He's like, "No, it happened. I was there." I'm like, "All right, okay, cool. I'll tell the story." But like, the point is that I've always been preaching that don't let people tell you you need all that fancy shit. When we sign artists, I the first conversation I have with them is like, "Yo, don't get caught up in all this, like, you need all this nonsense. Like, you don't need any of that stuff, you know? Like, all you need is whatever you're doing. How'd you get here? How'd you make that song I heard? It sounded great. Let's keep doing that." Like, you know, it's not rocket science in this day and age. You just want to create music. And the Beatles didn't have much to work with back then, you know, and you know, whoever it is, Marvin Gaye was lying down on a couch with an SM57. So it's like, all right, so grab an SM57 for $100 and lie on the couch in the living room and track a record and make it great, right? Like, there's a way to do it at all times. And I think, you know, people get caught up and lost in all the big fancy stuff. And like, sure, I'm in a big, beautiful recording facility, but like, yeah, welcome to like my luxury, you know, like I don't drive Ferraris. I have a nice recording facility, you know? So, I mean, but at the end of the day, that's what it is, right? It's not a necessity. It's not the difference maker of whether or not something's going to be good or not, or whatever the case is. All you need is a computer of any kind. I don't care what it is. It can be 15, 20 years old. It'll do the trick. Like, you don't need nothing. And if you only had an iPhone, you could do it. And if I was trapped with only an iPhone, I'd make classics all day. Like, there's ways to do it. There's software, there's plugins, it's all doable. So, I mean, that's the name of the game. Like, figuring out how to work with what you have and being great with what's in front of you. That's the name of the game. Being master of your domain. I don't care what you use to make beats. MPC 3000, Ableton, Fruity Loops, Pro Tools, ASR 10. It doesn't matter what you use. EPS 16. Who cares? If a Roland SP 202, it doesn't matter. If you a turntable and a record and you're beat juggling and the beat is sick. Like, it's all about what your means are and just using those means to create greatness. That's what, to me, the spirit of hip hop is at its core. Like, just, you know, you grab the boombox and the speakers and plug them in the park and make it work. Like, that's it. Like, figuring it out. And so, I mean, ultimately, that's making music in 2022 for me. All this fancy stuff is cool. None of it's necessary. People damn near don't even mix records in this day and age. You just want something to sound cool. If it sounds cool, that's it.
That's it, man. Yo, so people who are listening, man, like, yo, you don't need all that fancy stuff right now. I mean, yeah, it's nice, but just use what you have.